Hello world, it's JWP, J-Ward Primo Beats, coming to you live from my bedroom. Visit my Patreon for some advanced SynthEdit tutorials, rather intermediate and expert. The ones on YouTube are novice. I also stream on Twitch, so Twitch TV/JWP stream. Search me up on YouTube, JWPTube, and on Facebook, JWP Meta. For the Patreon, it's JWP Patreon, so patreon.com, JWP Patreon. Today I'm going to be looking at the standard oscillator algorithm in SynthEdit. So what does that mean? So that means, here's SynthEdit of course, that the oscillator itself, this is for efficiency, the oscillator itself has to be contained within this layout. It needs the MIDI to CV, the ADSR2, the VCA. However, the MIDI to CV can be shared among the oscillators. So, for example, there could be two oscillators. So, and if they're not contained within this algorithm, then they'll never sleep. And what sleeping is basically shutting down, however waking up every once in a while to check to see if anything's changed. And I'll demonstrate that. So we'll activate SynthEdit and hopefully everything's running fine. I didn't even check my mic inputs. Mic inputs fine. Sound is fine. Alright, so if we right click the container containing our synth, go to debug here, we can see every once in a while it peaks up. So it's waking up just to check if the control changes are, any control changes are happening. Now if, for example, we had no VCA, let's actually get rid of the secondary one. We can just mute them, I think. Just quickly containerize them. And right click more, mute. This is important for using oscillators. Now, if we say remove the VCA and have the oscillator coming straight out, of course this is going to be loud or clicky. Now the oscillator is never going to sleep. And I know that's horrible sound. I need to turn my headphone down. So yeah, it's steadily heating up 0.1%. I mean, it doesn't seem like much, but after a while it can get pretty overwhelming. So let's get rid of that. And I'm just trying to think of an example here that can break this. I believe without the ADSR will also break it, even with volume being 0. I do believe it should still be running. Yeah, it's still running steady, even though it's not running at all. We use the gate instead. Seems like it would be normal. It has no ADSR, no envelope, rather. However, oh, it is sleeping. So I did feel that to my understanding that it needed that envelope generator in there, but apparently this is a closed enough circuit for it to sleep. Now, if we wanted to do anything else, say for example, like a LFO. Let's make an example LFO here. Actually, first I will demonstrate the shared MIDI to CV. So I'm just going to uncontainerize this. And these. The audio engine is still running, so it's a bit clunky. I guess it was pretty much already demonstrated before. Jet actually sleeps. And let's get this debug. It'd be nice if we could pin the debug to the top. And this is something I looked at in another video, was the advanced oscillator, or the community oscillator. Oscillator HD. And its disable pin. So this will completely cut it right out if the disable pin is activated, which is beneficial. However, alternately, if we wanted something, say an LFO, which I'll demonstrate now. Let's just get rid of this. And we're going to drop the rate here, slider. And I guess we'll go about -10. Bring in a scope just to have a demonstration. Maybe we will bring in another synth just for something to modulate. Do we really need this? I don't think we really need that. Live, okay. Yes, it's gone. Okay, so where's it saying MIDI live? It's gone. That can't use more than one live MIDI in module. Okay, that's why it's talking about the MIDI in, which is now gone. Okay. So, for example, if I had a filter, let's go with a state variable 2. We'll make this a bandpass, I suppose. I just want to modulate the pitch. Use a sine for that. Just on the scope here. And we had, this doesn't need a left and a right, so we're just going to cancel one of these. Let's actually just cancel both. So it has a new name. Send it through the signal. And send it out. And of course, this is the new keyboard. I want the old keyboard from old, and it's in here. I want the old keyboard because it has the sustain note, as I can't use the taping keyboard anymore. So we're just going to connect that there, and we'll sustain some notes by pushing the T. And we'll go somewhere here, I guess, E. And the filter's running quite fast. It's also quite quiet, so maybe that's just my, yeah. So our problem here is that the oscillator is always awake. So we have a LFO, right? But that oscillator is always awake. This is, in the LFO case, we need to have that containing algorithm, even though it's only an LFO, even though it's not being triggered by a keyboard. I'm going to bring in components here under modifiers, and need a VCA. And apparently we don't need an ADSR, which I didn't know. Something new, I suppose. Okay, so this is going to pitch. We still, however, do need a VCA, or a MIDI to CV in its own container. So we're just going to bring that in. And yeah, now it's complaining that there is a MIDI to CV upstream, and there's also one in here downstream. So we're just going to containerize these three, and we still have our, call this rate, or frequency rather. Actually, this would be rate. It was actually supposed to be period. Okay. So now that that's happening, close this off, and actually that's in stay. And so we still have to have the pitch connected to pitch in order for it to sleep properly. Okay. And in order to do this without the MIDI to CV messing with it, because the MIDI to CV is always pushing out funny value, which we will see in a second, I do believe. I need to set this up properly first. So we have the gate to volume. We have our pitch coming in, which is the rate of the LFO. We'll name this LFO. That's heading out audio out, which is controlling the pitch. And now if we want to say have a button to control, you know, that we have our LFO turned on, we can just take a MIDI to trigger, trigger to MIDI, and we'll connect that to the gate. We'll send the MIDI out to the MIDI in, and we'll change this into a button type, or toggle. And just for the sake of simplicity, we'll make that a small one, and we'll remove the readout. Of course, you'd probably want to use your own GUI created in Knobman or however else, Photoshop, Blender. And we'll turn it on. We head in here, yeah, I see we got the MIDI to CV sending out the middle C or middle A. I believe that's middle A. So it's always going to be sending out middle A actually. 0, and now it'll be sending out, still looking like middle A. So in order to negate this, the best thing I found to do is to bring in a math module, multiply, and then just take that pitch and multiply it by 0. And of course, any number multiplied by 0 is 0. And then we can take that and plug that into pitch. And that still completes the circuit. So we're going to close this and bring that there. Now that we have the oscillator algorithm here, and the oscillator should now sleep properly. More the bug. And there it is. Turn it on. I need to make some space here for the debugger. Now if we turn it on, we now have an LFO constantly running. Of course, it's not only running when notes are triggered. However, that's not really what we want for our synkless LFO. For a sync-based LFO, we'd connect, you know, the gate to the container or the trigger. However, a little more intermediate. Anyway, yeah. And that's sounding awful. So let's turn the rate down. It's because the rate is super fast. And just want this for reference. A little bit faster. So that's just stressing the importance of the oscillator algorithm. Using a oscillator on its own, unless it's a community-based HD oscillator which has the disable function, it's best to use the oscillator algorithm, which is the MIDI to CV in connected to the oscillator and then closed with the VCA. Additionally, there's the ADSR. However, this small algorithm seems to be enough to make the oscillator sleep. Without that, the oscillator is always awake, and if you're using polyphonic patches, it can clone the oscillator several times. So yeah, just remember to use the oscillator algorithm. And that was a pretty short video. And with that, I do believe I'll call it there. And I don't really have anything planned to move into. I do want to get to doing some other stuff. So yeah, I will call it there. However, I'm going to throw up the BRB and decide what I want to do next here. So until next time.